Lecture 7, Parties to a Criminal Act. We have principals, accessories, and accomplices. You only have 3 things to memorize in this lecture. First are principals. A principal is a person who directly commits a crime or aids and abets, advises, or encourages another person in the commission of a crime. A principal need not be present during the commission of a crime. A person may be charged as a principal if they aid, abet, advise, or encourage the commission of a crime by a person who is not legally capable of committing the crime. So let's take this apart. So a principal doesn't have to be at the scene. Maybe a principal, if you aid someone, maybe you give them the gun or the bullets or one or the other, or you lend them a car to get away in, or you give them the combination to a lock or the plans to a building, or anything like that. It could be anyone that aids or abets in any way, provides any support. Extent of the liability of a principal. If someone helps to plan a crime and a death occurs, they could be charged with murder. They get basically the same punishment. Now, sentencing may be different, but for the initial prosecution purposes, they'd be charged with the same crime as the person who actually committed it. Committing a crime by use of an agent. Let's say that you used a trained animal or an unknown mail carrier. Or small children, you take a 5-year-old and you tell them it's a game and have them crawl through a doggy door and open the door so you can do a burglary. Or use of a mechanical device. Or the ammunition could be the agent, or a telephone could be the agent using the telephone to threaten someone. One of the other things I want to go back on a little bit was, if you have somebody that doesn't have the mental capacity to form intent and you get them to do something like small children, usually small children can't be charged with crimes because they don't understand. I mean, a baby in a store who takes candy doesn't understand how, retail sales works, or that it's theft. They just see candy, candy, candy. And so someone like that, or somebody who might be disabled mentally, that you get to do something that helps you commit the crime, you would be the one responsible, not them. They'd be an agent for you. Now, accessories. An accessory is a person who, with the knowledge that a felony was committed. So the first thing is, you can't be an accessory to a misdemeanor. So with knowledge that a felony was committed, harbors, aids, or conceals a principal with the intent to avoid arrest, prosecution. Now, I remember a case I had where we were looking for a homicide suspect, and I went to the door and could see a woman reading the newspaper. The front page of the paper was a picture of the homicide suspect. It was the mother of the homicide suspect, and she was reading the paper, and when I came and talked to her, she told me that her son was not there, and we surround the house, and of course he tries to come out a back window. She had been hiding him. So let me give you an example. That's a felony. Let's say that somebody commits a petty theft and they're running from police, and that's a misdemeanor, evading arrest. And they run into your house, and you hide them in the garage, and the cops come and say, did you see these people? And you say no. They eventually catch them in your backyard. They can't arrest you as an accessory after the fact because it was a misdemeanor. They can arrest you for impeding an investigation, but that's a whole different thing. Some examples of being an accessory. Accessory might be someone who's providing a false alibi, or they're providing an automobile to get away, or they're hiding someone in a certain place, or they're giving them money to sustain themselves, or they're destroying evidence, or they're bribing police officers or prosecutors, or they're providing bus, train, or airline tickets. Compounding a crime. This is a little bit different. It's included in this lecture, though. In 153 PC, you need to look that up. Any person having knowledge of a crime receives something of value or agrees to receive it in return for concealing a crime or refraining from prosecution or withholding evidence except in cases provided by law. You're doing an audit of the books and you find that your vice president is taking money. They've cooked the books themselves, and they're actually embezzling money. You bring it to the person's attention, and they tell you, "Look, don't say anything about it, and I'll promote you. You're going to be making $150,000 a year. You get the Mercedes lease, nice parking space, corner office window." And you take it in exchange for not releasing the information. That would be an example of compounding a crime. Civil damages reimbursements permissible. Now, what happens is, as long as a judge is looking over a case, or they're in control of the case, and you have a situation where there's some civil damages permissible, and as long as you don't agree to compound the crime, you can accept compensation from the perpetrator for any injuries or damages. Compromising of misdemeanors. Fourth element of compounding a crime gives an exception in cases provided by law. Conditions are as follows. The crime's a misdemeanor. The victim is entitled to reimbursement. The court agrees to the compromise. Defendant pays the court costs, and the action is officially recorded. Somebody punches you in the face and breaks a couple teeth. Well, that'd be a felony, but let's say that they just punch you and it causes some bruising. If you break teeth, you've got some problems. Let's not use that as an example, but it's good for discussion anyhow. Got some bruising, and you want $5,000 for your pain and suffering, and they pay you, and the court looks at that as being ample punishment for the offender. Now, accomplices. Let's not make this too complicated here. An accomplice to a crime is a co-principal, so someone who is involved in the commission of the crime, but they decide they're going to testify against another principal. They're going to rat them out. They're going to testify against them. That's an accomplice. Just the term accomplice is used. Testimony of an accomplice must be corroborated except in juvenile hearings, which is kind of strange, but juveniles have some innate power to tell the truth, I guess. Anyhow, that's current case law. But the testimony of an accomplice must be corroborated. In other words, they must be able to give, there must be some outside evidence that supports. So corroboration means to support their testimony. An accomplice must be a principal and testify for the prosecution, and their testimony must be corroborated. Again, that's the quick definition of it. Examples of corroboration: attempting to rig a false alibi in flight by the defendant, the silence of the accused in the face of the confession of the accomplice, false or contradictory statements by the defendant actually confessing to the crime after they know that they're going to have somebody rat them out, or physical evidence that supports or corroborates the accomplice's testimony. Feigned accomplices. A feigned accomplice is usually somebody who's working undercover. Feigned accomplice to a crime is one who pretends to consult and act with the others in the planning or commission of a crime, but only for the purposes of discovering their plans and confederates persons working with them, and secures evidence against them. Feigned accomplice testimony does not need to be corroborated. Common law categories. Now, we're going to talk about these, but it's very simple in California. Either you're a principal to a crime or not, and that's, before, during the planning and during the commission, or you're an accessory after the fact, which means you're helping somebody to escape, or you're hiding them from prosecution. Now, the common law categories were principal in the first degree was the person that actually performed the criminal act. Principal in the second degree was a person who aided or abetted. They gave them the guns, the ammunition, the car at the scene of the crime, or constructively there somehow. Accessories before the fact were the persons that ordered the crimes done. They aided and abetted but were not at the crime scene. And accessories after the fact were, again, knowledge of a felony, aids and abets to escape detection or prosecution. Remember, this is the old common law categories, not what is looked at as being the current status in California. Key terms. You got to know principal, accessory, accomplices, criminal agent, compounding a crime, civil damages, corroboration, and feigned accomplice. Make sure you read your chapter. End of Lecture 7.